We all know that minimalism has become really popular in recent years, but the idea of living with less is actually a lot older than that. Almost all of today's modern minimalist principles can actually be found right here in the Bible. And today, I'm going to share 5 of these principles that have really helped shape me and my family in so many positive ways. And hopefully, they'll be helpful for your family too. Now, when you look at how the Bible addresses the topic of minimalism, you start to see a consistent theme. Possessions aren't the goal, but wisely managing your resources is. Let's get a couple things clear. Biblical minimalism is not about rejecting possessions altogether. It's not about extreme poverty. Rather, biblical minimalism is about stewardship, or the responsible care of something, and contentment. It's freedom from materialism and the consumerist mindset. The first concept is stewardship, and the verse that this principle comes from is Luke 16:10. It reads, "If you are faithful in the little things, you will be faithful in the larger ones. But if you're dishonest in the little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities." The key here is that everything we have is entrusted to us by God, but we get to choose to some extent how we use our wealth. Now, this idea can encompass so much in our lives, but it is especially true of money. If we don't learn early on how to manage our resources, that can become a major problem down the road when we suddenly have more and more resources to manage. On the flip side, if we practice being responsible, being faithful in the little that we have, that becomes easier and easier over time and multiplies when we have more to be responsible with. Starting with the little things for you might be skipping the morning latte at Starbucks and instead making your coffee at home. Maybe it's actually making a Christmas budget and sticking to it instead of just overspending because you feel like your kids need more gifts and more stuff to open underneath the tree on Christmas morning. Like working out, sports, or really anything that you want to get better at, it takes disciplined practice. So start small and then work your way up to the greater things. The next principle is contentment, and it comes from 1 Timothy 6:6-8. It reads, "Yet true godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. After all, we brought nothing with us when we came into the world, and we can't take anything with us when we leave. So if we have enough food and clothing, let us be content." Our modern culture is constantly bombarding us with messages that we need more to be happy. That if we just had that one thing, then and only then would we be satisfied. But we all know the truth behind this mentality. Sure, it's gonna make us happy in the short term, but after a while, we're gonna be right back from where we started. You see this all over the place, and especially in tech. Every single year, companies like Apple, Google, and Samsung are constantly spending millions and millions of dollars on advertising just to get you to upgrade to the latest and greatest. And what does that really ultimately get you? A slightly faster phone, a slightly better camera, a couple new features here and there. Before long, a year maybe, a new version is going to be out, and what you have, what you just purchased, is going to be obsolete. Now, I'm not saying you can't and shouldn't enjoy tech. I love me some tech. I'm the kind of guy who builds his own computers. The point is to not get caught up on the hamster wheel and making the next thing your constant goal. Modern culture says more equals better, but biblical wisdom says contentment equals freedom. Number 3 is the danger of possessions. And this comes from Luke 12:15. Then he said, and this is Jesus speaking, "Beware, guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by how much you own." Jesus warned about possessions more than many other topics. Why? Because the stuff that we own can so easily become our identity. We start to define ourselves by the car that we drive, the house that we own, or the neighborhood that we live in. Heck, the clothes that we wear, or the things that we collect. A friend of mine is a really good example of this, because everywhere he would go, whether it was a vacation, a concert, some sort of event, he would always need to buy the t-shirt from the place. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. Recently, I helped him move, and when we went to his closet to pack it up, he had literally over 100 shirts in there. And he confessed to me to not even wearing 80 to 90% of them. They didn't make him happier, they just made him more anxious about the thought of getting rid of them, because he felt like a part of him was wrapped up in each one of those t-shirts. Now, I know that sounds silly, but people do this all the time with all sorts of stuff. When I personally stopped caring so much about the stuff that I own and my identity being wrapped up in it, it allowed me to realize that my identity was so much more than the things that I owned. For you, it might be different, but for me, me, it was about being a great dad, a great husband, and ultimately a follower of Jesus. Number 4, simplicity enables generosity. This concept comes from Acts 20:35. It reads, "And I have been a constant example of how you can help those in need by working hard. You should remember the words of the Lord Jesus. It is more blessed to give than to receive." When we learn to live with less, it creates space to help others in need, to live freely and without worry, to give generously, to give like no one else. Okay, this is starting to sound like Dave Ramsey's baby steps, step 7, I think. But it's true. Where I've seen this show up in my own life is actually our lack of debt. See, when my wife and I got married, we both made a conscious decision that we were gonna throw as much as we possibly could at our debt, our student loans, our car payments. It meant for us living really frugally for a lot of years. It meant secondhand purchases and not making fun purchases. But through that experience, we learned that we really didn't need the shiny new stuff all the time, and that living with less actually made us happier. Fast forward to over a decade later, and that lack of debt has really allowed us to be more generous. And as the Bible tells us, it is truly more blessed to give than to receive. Number 5, storing up treasure on earth as opposed to treasure in heaven. And this comes from Matthew 6:19 through 21. "Don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven where moths cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also." Here's the thing, our spending reveals our priorities. It shows us where our hearts are. And when we're so consumed with this purchase or that purchase, we end up missing out on so much of what this life has to offer. When we set our hearts on things, and sometimes things that we don't even need, oftentimes they end up discarded or forgotten. Things degrade, they break down, they become obsolete or outdated. And the worst part of all, we don't even get to take any of this stuff with us when we die. The best or worst we could do is pass it down to someone else, and then it becomes their headache to try to figure out. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to leave my kids or grandkids with just a bunch of junk. I want to leave them with a lump sum of money or a house that they can sell or live in. And even more important than that, memories of time spent together. A legacy of commitment and faith to the things that mattered most. In the end, if we seek to fill our lives with things that we think are going to satisfy, ultimately, it's just going to leave us feeling empty. And now, as a dad with 4 kids, all these principles found in the Bible resonate with me so much more. I realize that minimalism and simplifying our life isn't just about decluttering our house, as important as that might be. It's about protecting our priorities, our faith, our family, our stewardship. This is something we try to instill in our kids each and every day, and believe me, it's not always easy. Especially around Christmas and birthdays, we really need to recenter on the idea that more doesn't equal better. Now, like I mentioned before, it doesn't mean we deny possessions altogether. It's not like that at all. Because in the end, biblical minimalism isn't about owning nothing. It's about making sure that nothing owns you. Thank you guys so much again for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And if you want to learn more about how clutter is costing you more than you think, go ahead and click on this video right here. And in the comments below, let me know if there are any biblical principles that you thought I missed or you think I should have touched on. So that's going to do it for today. I'll see you all in the next video.